Jim Gilmore, nice to have you back with us again.
Thank you, Sam. I'm glad to talk to your viewers.
We'd mentioned off camera a few minutes ago that the question comes up with citizens, what does an ambassador, a position you held, what does an ambassador do all day? I know there's certain meetings, presentations of credentials, that sort of thing, but what is a normal, if there is such thing as a normal day, what is a normal day, or given activities you must do, discretionary activities, what happens when you were posted in Vienna? Just to give people a real feel what that's about.
Well, I want to talk to your listeners or your viewers about the difference within American foreign policy. The normal approach is to appoint a United States ambassador to a country. And then that ambassador will do a lot of work in business development, in diplomatic relations with government officials, a lot of visa and immigration issues that go on in that routine day in and day out. That is not the kind of ambassador that I was. There is also a second category, and that category is ambassadors to international organizations, like primarily the United Nations, NATO, European Union, and OSCE. These are the European-oriented ones. There are also different international organizations in the Pacific also and around the rest of the world. My day was different. My day was all about geopolitics all the time, looking at what the various countries were planning to do in the international situation, particularly in a time of conflict and tension, which was simmering at that time while I was in Vienna, but not exploded. After that time now, of course, we have seen an explosion by the Russians with a real military invasion into Ukraine. Their political objective in Ukraine is to conquer that country and destroy it completely, to eliminate its government, put in a puppet government, kill or intern all of the people that want to be independent there, and absorb Ukraine into Russia. So that's their geopolitical issue. While we were there was a lot of jockeying that was going back and forth. I actually liked the Russians that I was there working with. I liked the Ukrainians. I liked all the ambassadors, as a matter of fact. But this was a political situation, which I was prepared to do by virtue of the fact that I had come up through the political field and had served as governor of Virginia, national chairman of the Republican Party. So I understood politics, and that's what I was there to do. We met every Thursday at the Hofburg Palace in downtown Vienna, all 57 ambassadors, and made there was a presentation usually of the geopolitical situation, and also an opportunity for countries to state their positions. Now, I want to emphasize
that, Mr. Ambassador, if I might jump in and re-emphasize to the viewer, whereas an ambassador to a given country from our country to the United Kingdom or France or wherever is dealing primarily with one country and one structure. But you had to get familiar with what, 56 others?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's a major distinction I want to make sure people understand that
that is correct.
It's a multitude of individuals. Yes.
And let me state that that in Vienna, Austria, the United States actually sends three ambassadors. Three United States ambassadors, one to Austria, which is as I've described, one to the United Nations, particularly involving nuclear issues, and one to OSCE. All of us have individual embassies. All of us have individual residences, staff. It's all separate, but we have different functions there. But my job was to work there and I want to emphasize to your viewers messaging. In politics, both domestically and internationally, messaging is important because you're communicating what your party will do, your candidate will do, or in my case, what your country will do. And then the people take consideration of that. They know where America is and what we're likely to do. So by sending a strong message as United States ambassador on behalf of the United States and the Trump administration, I was communicating to the Russians, don't do anything reckless. Now, also, I want to emphasize this. Countries decide what their national objectives and goals are. And the Russians have made a decision. Putin has made it crystal clear what he wants to do, which is the reassembly of the old Russian Empire. That's what he wants to do. He can't do that unless he destroys and absorbs Ukraine first. If he could do that, and absorb all those resources, control the Black Sea, the people, the grain, those resources, and add that into the Russian Empire. If he can't do that, he can't reestablish the Russian Empire. I warn your viewers that it is not in the American interest for the Russians to reestablish the old Soviet Empire and then become adversarial to the United States. That is not in the American interest. And that is the issue that is confronting us now and was confronting me at OSCE.
Well, I presume, Ambassador Gilmore, you keep some contact or have some feel of what is still going on in these gatherings and activities in Vienna. Does the OSCE, to your knowledge, have a position regarding the Ukrainian-Russian conflict?
Well, certainly, it should be noticed that Ukraine is an individual country.
Mm-hmm.
It is not part of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
The ambassador there was very adversarial to Russia. And why would that be? Because his country is being pushed on by the Russian conquerors, by the effort of the Russians to be aggressors.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, while I was there, we kept a lid on pretty well with this by warning the Russians and projecting American strength. Unfortunately, after I left, things came apart quite a bit, and the Russians, of course, did their invasion, which is now a very major war. But on the other hand, right now we have the Ukrainians fighting for themselves. And they told me when I was on an independent mission to Ukraine in 2021, they made it crystal clear to me because I asked them, what's going to happen if the Russians invade you in a real way? And the response was, we will fight because we understand what it is to be part of Russia. We want no part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the same people. Ukrainians and Russians are different people.
Mm-hmm.
They even have a slightly different language.
Mm-hmm.
And they intend to be independent, and they are today, while you and I are speaking, in cold trenches over there in the ground, fighting for their not just their sovereignty and their independence as an independent sovereign nation, but frankly for their survival. Because we have seen the Russians intend to use every possible atrocity that they can to conquer and destroy Ukraine. I want to emphasize, for example, to your viewers, the theft of children. Thousands of children have been kidnapped and taken to Russia to be indoctrinated as Russians and not Ukrainians. That is a crime against humanity. As a matter of fact, we can talk about this further, but much of what the Russians are doing right now and Putin is doing is exactly the Hitler playbook. Exactly. And that's what's really going on in Europe. We can ignore it in the United States and put it aside and pretend it isn't there, like a child pulling his sheets up over his covers up over his head, hoping the bad man will go away. Well, the bad man's not going away, and the future is still very much in question as what America should or should not be doing.
It is a historical question with deep roots on all sides with it, and again, you've enlightened all of us a great deal with this. Again, I certainly thank you and say thank you so much for your time on this. It is much appreciated.
Thank you, Sam.